Good morning, everyone. Hi, Benny and Samantha. How's the weather down in Hilton Head? Hey, Zara and Oliver. It was nice talking to you this morning. Zara read me a book. Thanks, Zara. It was a book about colors. Good morning, Sam and Henry. You remember this book, don't you? Chadwick Forever. But you'll enjoy hearing it again. It's a great story. Okay, now the sun has come out. It's Monday morning, and let's read with our friends. I'm so excited you're here to join me. So I set the room up and tried to make it look nice and beachy. I even have a little crab. Don't worry, he's not real. He won't bite me. And I brought a little tea set to share with you. Remember when we finished reading the other day? Hester the squirrel was throwing all her stuff away. Hey, maybe we can have a tea party one day. Would you like that? Pour some cream in my tea. Okay, we're going to continue on page 20. In the picture, it's showing Hester the squirrel is leaving and all the animals are together. Remember, they were having a big meeting, trying to solve the world's problems. Okay, let's start. Bernie chuckled again. Now, he said something we don't say, but I can read it because it's in the book. He said, "You dummies." That's the way crabs do it. They were talking about how they leave their eggs. There won't be any 2 million crabby darlings swimming up the creek. Most of them have probably already been eaten, slurped up by some glutinous eel for dessert. Heck, probably half of them got washed out to sea. Right, Chad? Chadwick nodded weakly, and Esmeralda paled. Hey, I'm not saying some won't make it, Bernie added quickly. Why, little Chadwick Jr. is probably whipping those waves and riding that tide home to Shady Creek right now. And remember, that's right here in the Chesapeake Bay. No one quite knew what to say. Hester put away her notebook and broke the silence. Well, I think it's wonderful, she said. We all do things differently. Congratulations, Chadwick and Esmeralda. I will never know your happiness, for I shall never have a handsome husband or a loving family. But you and your little ones, why, you'll always know that some tiny bit of you, like the smallest star up in the sky, shines on and on for generations to come. Hey, I like that, Bernie whooped. Chadwick Forever. Hey, does that sound familiar? Chadwick Forever? A toast to the new parents, Dr. Mallard said, lifting a nutshell full of blackberry juice. I'll lift my teacup. Hear, hear, a heron called out as everyone showered the crabs with best wishes and plunged into the food. No one noticed that Hester left without even taking a bite to eat. I wonder where Hester's going. What do you think Hester is thinking? Now I'm going to read what she wrote in her journal. I'll read in a different voice when it's her journal writing. During the night, a storm came through. The sound of raindrops hitting the oak's big leaves made me sad. It was almost as though the tree were crying for me. Oh, how I shall miss it here. Still, I have made up my mind to go. And here's the illustration. Can you see Hester writing in her journal? With that, Hester closed her journal and placed it inside a bandana with a small pile of acorns. At dawn, when the first dim fingers of light poked their way through the gray mist over Shady Creek, she set off on her journey to the refuge. She was far away by the time the others woke up, and far, far away by the time the mysterious tracks were spotted again on the sandbar. She would never know how much fear and worry spread through Shady Creek that day, not because there was an unknown monster lurking around, but because in early afternoon the animals discovered that Hester had left. Oh. The first day is over. How exhausted I am. Have found a bed for the night in a wild cherry tree. I'm lonely without my friends nearby in the creek. Must try to sleep. Tomorrow I have to find a way across the river. Those were Hester's thoughts. Are you feeling lonely without having your friends to play with? On the next page, it shows a picture of the ferry. And there's the car waiting to go across that ferry. For a squirrel, the only way across the Tread Avon River was to sneak aboard the ferry that ran from Bellevue to Oxford. And Pop-Pop and I were there. We went and took a walk and saw the ferry in Oxford. Hester and her mother had done it once many years ago. Now Hester would have to do it all by herself. Is there ever something you did all by yourself? How did that make you feel? Turn to someone next to you and tell them, how did you feel having to do something alone? Okay. All afternoon, Hester watched from beneath a bush on the riverbank. When the ferry pulled into Bellevue, she picked up her bundle and held it close. She could feel her heart pounding. 2 cars and a truck waited in line for the ferry. When their engine started, Hester scampered unnoticed to the loading dock and hid behind a pile of rope. Why do you think it was easy for her to go unnoticed? Why didn't the people notice at the ferry? One car rumbled onto the ferry, then the other rolled aboard and jerked to a stop. Hester peered over the edge of the dock at the dark river water swirling below. Her tail twitched rapidly. She knew it was time to make her move. That's not a tail. I'm just switching my hand to show you how the tail switches. Let me see you do it. Take your hand and switch it just like it's a tail. That's right. A rusty pickup truck rattled past. Now, Hester told herself, but her legs froze. Chains rattled. A man's voice called out orders. The vehicles were in place and the ferry's big propellers whirled, churning the water into a froth. What's a froth? Pop-Pop made me a froth this morning for my cappuccino. Chug-a-chug, chug-a-chug, chug. The ferry moved forward. Hester would have to leap across the water now if she wanted to get aboard. Don't do it, a voice screeched from above. Who was that? Who do you think yelled that? Let's find out. Here's the next page. Can you see Hester in the water, holding on to a branch? Oh, and somebody's above. A bird. Too late. Hester was in the air, reaching with her front paws for the edge of the ferry. She missed it by a hair. What does that mean, missed it by a hair? Do you know what that means? Turn to your brother or sister, someone next to you, or mom or dad. Tell them, what does that mean to miss it by a hair? As she plunged into the water, rushing water behind the ferry, Bernie squawked and circled above. Oh, that's who was above. It was Bernie. Finally, Hester bobbed to the surface, gasping for breath and paddling frantically with her tiny paws to keep afloat. Bernie's eyes darted around. He spied a large branch in the water and dove down to pull it her way. Hester grabbed on. Yay! Don't let go, Bernie shouted. The strong, swift current carried the branch downriver. Already weak, Hester knew she couldn't hold on for very long. I'm turning the page. This picture is showing birds flying in the air, and they're carrying Hester. And here's showing some of the animals. Bernie swooped low to the water and tugged at the branch with his beak, coaxing it toward shore. Oh, help me, Hester moaned. Luck was with them. That's good news. The branch caught the edge of a fallen tree near the riverbank and stopped. Exhausted and drenched, Hester dragged herself ashore and collapsed in the brown mud. How do you think she was feeling? Within moments, Dr. Mallard arrived, carrying his black medical bag under one wing. Hester was still unconscious. The doctor wrapped her in a blanket, and 2 blue herons flew her home in a sling. When I woke, I was back in my own apartment where all my furniture had been put back just the way I had it. There was even a pot of tea waiting and warmed. And my journal, which Bernie found. My dear friends have taught me one thing. I'm going to stop worrying about tomorrow and enjoy the life I have today. This is where my heart is. I shall never leave Shady Creek again. Think about those words. Think about what she learned from her friends. What have you learned from your friends? Or what have you learned from your mom and dad? Hester closed her notebook just as Bernie stuck his head in the doorway. Hester, come quick! There's trouble on the sandbar. They've cornered the monster who's been leaving those ugly tracks. You don't say, Hester exclaimed, snatching a shawl and scampering out the door. What does that mean, scampering? Is there another word you could say for how she went out the door? A small crowd had gathered, and Chadwick's voice could be heard. Stop sniveling, he ordered. No one's going to hurt you. We just want to know who you are. At first, Hester thought Chadwick was talking to Orville Oyster, but when the mysterious shell spoke, its voice was high and smooth, like that of a young child. I'm a mussel, the shell said, a dwarf wedge mussel. I don't mean anyone harm. I'm sorry I messed up your sign with my tracks, but I heard about your meeting and I wanted to come. I'm endangered too, you see. The pollution is just killing me. A dwarf wedge mussel? You've got to be kidding. He's not kidding, said a rather deep and stirring voice from the back of the crowd. Why would he joke about something as serious as who he is? I wonder who that is. A large, stately squirrel in a top hat stood behind them on the sandbar. And who are you? Bernie demanded. Who do you think it is? I can't wait to find out. Here's the illustration. Who is that? A large, stately squirrel in a top hat. The name is Harrison, the squirrel said as he touched his hat with the tip of an elegant walking stick and bowed ever so slightly. I'm looking for someone. Who do you think he's looking for? Turn to someone next to you and whisper, who's he looking for? Sammy and Henry, I know you know, but don't tell us. Hester peeked out from behind Baron von Herren, intrigued by the handsome stranger. Just who are you looking for? Chadwick asked. Harrison folded his white front paws on top of his walking stick. I won't know until I find her, he said. You see, I'm looking for a wife. But the search has been long and hard, because there aren't many of my kind left in these parts. Your kind? Matilda looked down her bill at the squirrel. A Delmarva fox squirrel? Hester asked. Yes, that's it, my good woman. However did you know? How did she know? We know how she knew. Well, no one had to guess what was happening. It was love at the first twitch of their tails. Paw and Paw, the two squirrels, headed at once to Hester's tree for tea. After they left, and here's a picture of the sky and the sun setting. Chadwick went over to the tiny mussel and assured him he was welcome in Shady Creek. I just can't promise you that things will get any better, he said. It's up to the people to stop building on our fields, cutting down trees and ruining beaches. It's up to them to keep the water clean. What's it up to the people to do? What can we do? It was just Earth Day the other day, and maybe you talked about with your family, what can we do to help the earth stay clean? The mussel said he understood. I guess we just have to hope that the people will help, right? Chadwick nodded, and he tried to smile. Before long, night came again to Shady Creek, and the animals dispersed. Do you know what that means, dispersed? What's another word for dispersed? Some returning underwater, some heading to the marsh. The soft glow of candlelight and the sound of gentle laughter came from Hester's oak apartment. Only Chadwick and Esmeralda remained on the sandbar in the moonlight, watching as an incoming tide lapped at the sand around them. They were happy for Hester, yet sad for the others, whose future was unknown. They felt a little sorry for themselves, too, for they had hoped that on this night they would be reunited with their own little ones. Yet in their hearts they knew, as all animals knew, this was the way of life. One day happiness, one day sorrow. Life went on regardless. Think about that for what's going on in our world today. Goes along with it, doesn't it? Already Esmeralda was planning to spawn a new mass of eggs. It'll be all right, you'll see, Chadwick said, putting his claw around Esmeralda. She frowned at him. Shh, I hear something. What do you think she heard? Whisper to someone next to you, what did she hear? Here's the next page. It's a picture of Chadwick and Esmeralda. And if you look real carefully, you're going to see something else in the picture. Chadwick listened. A breeze rustled the nearby marsh grass, carrying with it bursts of faint, high-pitched sounds. Mommy, 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 Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Who was saying that? Esmeralda turned to Chadwick. The children, she exclaimed. The children are here. They're here. Sure enough, the little crabs had arrived, hungry and tired with the tide. It's hard to see, but that's what's in the picture. Those are all the little babies. With open claws, Chadwick and Esmeralda scooped up their new family while all the other birds and animals rushed back to the sandbar to see what all the commotion was about. The piping plover piped a happy song. Esmeralda beamed proudly, and Chadwick found he had to wipe away a tear of joy. That happens to Mimi a lot. I cry tears of joy. Hester couldn't wait to get back to her journal that night. And here's what she wrote. I'll read it to you. After all the baby crabs arrived, Harrison and I looked up into the night sky. Such a clear night. There must have been 1,000,000 stars out. It made me feel warm inside to think that maybe there really was a tiny bright light up there shining forever for each and every one of us. The end. This picture on the back page shows a birth announcement. It says Chadwick and Esmeralda announced the arrival of, and it announces all the names of all their little babies. The size of the babies, about as big as a pinhead. So if you have a pin in your house, think about how tiny that is. It's smaller than your fingernail. Arrived during the full moon of August. Oh, did you like that ending? Think about, why was the book called Chadwick Forever? Whisper to someone next to you, why is that a good title for the book? It's called Save Our Endangered Friends. So think about, and then let's talk about, what can you do to help endangered animals? Is there something you're doing right now? Think about if you have any good ideas. So when you have a chance, maybe you can draw a picture to go with this story. Can you draw Chadwick and Esmeralda? Can you draw the baby crabs? Can you draw the squirrels living in the oak tree, having a tea party? I've enjoyed reading to you. Enjoy your day. Love from Mimi. Bye.